Hello, Zuko here. If you don't know, my name is Jess. I go by Zimmy on the internet because one time I was 15. So today I'm going to be doing my October reading wrap up. In the month of October, I read 23 books. 5 of those were rereads and quite a few of them were audiobooks, but the rest of them I have right here. I hope you can see them. So let's start with the first ones, which are of course at the bottom of this pile. Like, I don't think this through. Okay. So the first book I read this month was a reread. I spent the first weekend of October rereading the original Percy Jackson series. So the first book I read was obviously The Lightning Thief. Now, I liked these books when I read them, but when I first read them, I think I was 13. I think I lowered this book's rating from a 4-star to a 3-star. If you don't know, this is about children of Greek gods who end up having to be heroes, like the demigods in old myths. So yeah, I lowered my score from 4 stars to 3 stars because I just didn't enjoy it as much as an adult. The next book I read was The Sea of Monsters. These are all by Rick Riordan. I don't think I said that originally, but yeah, this is book 2 in the Percy Jackson series. Again, I lowered my rating from a 4-star to a 3-star because I just didn't love these as much. They are too young for me now, and I don't have the same nostalgia that other people have, as I only read them once when I was younger. Next is The Titan's Curse. Again, I lowered my rating for this, but also there was like a line, I think it's in this one or else it's the next one, like Percy's 13 or 14, and his mom straight up goes, "You're too old for me to be telling you what to do anymore." And I'm like, no, he's not. You're the mother. He's 13. What do you mean? That doesn't make any sense. What? So yeah, that was this book, probably. I read The Battle of the Labyrinth by Rick Riordan. This one I gave a 4-star. I thought it was starting to pick up as the characters were getting older. It felt less young, but still kind of young. But I did enjoy it. And then lastly, of course, I read The Last Olympian, which is the final book in the original 5 Percy Jackson books. I also gave this a 4-star, but honestly, like, I was listening to the audiobooks and I think I zoned out for most of this. Like, that's kind of bad, right? So yeah, that's these. Next, I read Night Film by Marisha Pessl. So I don't even really know how to explain this book. And I don't know how to explain my feelings on this book. This book is very complicated. So this book starts out with a journalist deciding to report on the suicide of the daughter of this famous filmmaker that has always been super mysterious, and nobody really knows where the hell he is, if he's even still alive, like what he's doing, but he used to make these really weird indie horror films. And the mystery surrounding, like, the death of his daughter. This book was bizarre and a wild ride. It was, I don't know. Like, I don't know if I was happy with it. Like, it's a big mystery. And I have trouble with not knowing exactly how everything worked all the time. And I don't know that this book answered all of the questions that I had. Maybe I'm giving this book 3.5 or 3. Somewhere between 2 and 4 is how I feel about this book. Next, I listened to the audiobook for Dracula. It was a good, well done, like, full cast audiobook with, like, Tim Curry and stuff in it. I hated every second of it. It was so boring. I don't know. Maybe I wasn't in the right mood for Dracula, or maybe it was just like an objectively boring book. I'm not really sure. But I gave this like 2.5 to 3 stars, and that's me being really nice about it. Next, I don't have a physical copy of this, but I read The Outsider by Stephen King. This is a book that starts off with a boy's body being found, and they assume that they immediately know who the killer is because everybody saw him do it, but he is very adamant that he is innocent, and there's a whole mystery around it. It was my first Stephen King book, and I liked it. I think the second half kind of fell flat for me, and it could have been shorter. I think I'll keep reading Stephen King books, but like, they could be shorter. I gave this book like a 3 out of 5 stars because I liked the first half a lot and I didn't really love the second half. Then, oh god, who's this by? Then I read I'm Thinking of Ending Things by Ian Reid, which, like, if you don't know, was just made into like a Netflix movie. The movie, while you're watching it, feels like you're being gaslit. It's bad, and then there's a musical number. I gave the book 2 stars because it didn't have a musical number. Otherwise, it would have been 1 star because it was still boring and bad. Not sorry. Then I read Catherine House by Elizabeth Thomas. This is a like dark academia book surrounding a mysterious school that you, if you get accepted into, don't leave until you graduate. And they have some work with something called plasma that might be the key to everything. Now, I enjoyed the reading experience of this book, but it didn't feel like it had a plot. Like it was missing things and felt like maybe a first draft that needed to be reworked, or like a book that needed an ending and it didn't have it. It also had a really like main character who I think was dissociating through half the book, so she never really understood what was going on. There is queer rep in this book. Like, I recommend reading it, but I don't recommend going in with really high expectations. I gave this book a 2 out of 5 stars just because I enjoyed reading it, but then I also am like, this wasn't, like, objectively, this wasn't a good book. Next, I read my second Stephen King, which was The Shining. If you don't know, this is a story about a recovering alcoholic named Jack who is working for the winter at a hotel that needs to have its, like, everything maintained while nobody can get to it because of the roads being too bad with the mountain location of the hotel, so they have to stay there all winter. And slowly the hotel turns Jack crazy against his like wife and son, who his son might have weird abilities. I'm sure you've all read or seen or know about The Shining. I liked it, and again though, it was too long, and I think I'm finding that I don't like horror in audiobooks because you're missing the suspense element of like, I have to keep reading what happens next. Like, it's just not as suspenseful, I feel like, in audiobooks. So I'm gonna try to actually physically read some more horror because I can't tell how I feel about horror right now. But I did give this book 3 out of 5 stars. I liked it, but I was zoning out through part of it and I felt like it was too long. Then, for the first time, I listened to the audiobook of Coraline by Neil Gaiman. I read this most Halloweens. This, if you haven't seen the movie or read this before, is about a girl who moves into a big house that has a door that sometimes opens up and leads to a place that looks just like her house, except for her parents and the people there have buttons for eyes. This is a great book. I love it every time. Like, this is a 5-star read, but the audiobook was narrated by Neil Gaiman. It was so good. It was great. Like, I usually listen to audiobooks at about double speed, which is also why I think horror doesn't work for me. But I actually like listened to this at like 1.2 speed because original speed is like way too slow for me, but like that was the right speed because like it was just so well done. I really enjoyed it. Then I read Bird Box by Josh Malerman. This was also just turned into a Netflix movie last December, I believe. So this is a book about a world where there's like some kind of invasion, they're monsters or aliens or something, and you can't look at them or else you kill yourself. So no one is allowed to like look outside. There have to be blankets everywhere. Like, everyone is stuck inside in the dark. I mean, if you have electricity, you're not in the dark, but like, you know, you can't have sunlight anymore. You can't look outside because what if they're there? This was like a pretty good book. I gave this like a 4 out of 5 stars. Like, I really enjoyed it. There's now a sequel. I don't know how I feel about reading the sequel. I might do it. Next, I read Smoke Gets in Your Eyes and Other Lessons from the Crematory by Caitlin Doughty. If you don't know, Caitlin Doughty runs Ask a Mortician here on YouTube. She is a mortician, and this was her first book describing kind of how she got into the field. And this was super awesome. I love Caitlin Doughty. I'm glad that I listened to the audiobook of this because I love when nonfiction is read by the author. This was great. I recommend it. I gave this a 5 out of 5 stars. And I read The Monsters of Ellenhaven by Jennifer Jennifer something. This is a book about a man who can't die, who meets a sorcerer. This is queer as shit. It's also very short. I can't really talk about it without spoiling it, but it is queer. There's like a murderer who can't die and a sorcerer. It was good. I enjoyed it. I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. Then, every month now, Audible has a free audiobook you can just download if you're part of their subscription service or whatever, and this month it was If You Tell, A True Story of Murder, Family Secrets, and the Unbreakable Bond of Sisterhood by Greg Olson. This tells the true story of a woman named Shelley who was a monster. Trigger warning in this book for everything, because it is about a real human being and real people's real life experiences. Like, trigger warnings truly for everything. If you are sensitive, especially if you're sensitive to real life events, don't even consider reading this. It's not worth it to your mental health. I don't want to say I enjoyed it. I found this book really interesting and engaging and horrifying, and I gave this a 4 out of 5 stars. Then I read The Sacrifice Box by Martin Stewart. So, I guess trigger warning for this, for detailed descriptions of dead animals and dead people and gore. Yeah. So this book, I gave this a 2 out of 5 stars. This book is dumb. It's about a box that compels people to get their friend groups to go put something personal in the box, and it tells someone the rules of the box in the dreams. This book had a, like, unironic teddy bear that was trying to kill people. It was really bad. It's sad because I really like how, like, vibrant, like, the cover is. Like, I love the red on the white, and it just was really pretty because, like, that's a blood red. It's not just, like, a boring red. But this book was dumb. Like, everything about this book, like, I was reading it and I'm like, am I, like, really struggling to listen to it because I'm not in an audiobook mood, or is it because it's bad? And, like, as I was almost done, I was like, there's a no, it's bad. There's a murderous teddy bear. This is dumb. So yeah, that's my thoughts on this. Look out for my next unhaul. Then I read From Here to Eternity, Traveling the World to Find the Good Death, also by Caitlin Doughty. This is her second book. This is more her exploring the traditions of death, like their burial traditions and whatever, in other cultures around the world. This is super interesting. I loved it. I love Caitlin Doughty. Read her books. Watch her YouTube content. Follow her on social media. I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. Then I read Stephen King's Bazaar of Bad Dreams. This is a short story collection. This was the first short story collection, I think, maybe that I've ever finished. So that's saying something. It was fine. I don't like short story collections, but I did it and I listened to all of them. I didn't read it physically. This was also an audiobook I listened to, but yeah, I don't have a lot of feelings on it, but I read it. I gave this 3 out of 5 stars. It wasn't bad. I just don't really love short fiction, you know? So yeah, 3 out of 5 stars. Then I read Caitlin Doughty's third book, Will My Cat Eat My Eyeballs? Big Questions from Tiny Mortals About Death. This is her third book. This is her answering questions honestly that young kids ask her frequently about death. This was great. I loved it. I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. Then I read Never Contented Things by Sarah Porter. So this is the author of Vast in the Night, which, if you don't know, I really enjoyed. This is a book about fairies. Content warning in this book for, like, foster family abuse, like abuse from the foster family onto their foster child, and also, like, incestuous relationship between foster siblings. Like, I know they're not actual siblings, but, like, they're being raised as siblings, and they're, like, in love with each other, and that's not a spoiler. That's, like, pretty immediate in this book. That rubbed me the wrong way. Like, I feel like I get to be the authority on what counts as incest, as I am adopted and I have a stepbrother who is my age. So we are, like, very removed from being, like, actually related, but we were raised as siblings. We're siblings. It's incest. If you're being raised as siblings, especially from a young age, to be, like, siblings, anything else is incest. Having a romantic relationship with anyone that you have been raised as siblings with is weird. That's just my thoughts. Anyway, aside from that, the book was weird. I think all of Sarah Porter's books are weird. I can't really describe it, which now you're just gonna think this is a weird incest book. Half of it's a weird incest book, but it was a good book. Like, I enjoyed it. I give this a 3 out of 5 stars. I think I'm gonna keep it. I think I'm gonna reread it. If you like really weird books with really iffy romances, I'd suggest this. This also has queer rep, and it's good queer rep, I think. So there's that. And it's not the queer rep between siblings. So yeah. Then I read Fangs by Sarah Anderson. This is the person who writes the Sarah Scribbles comics, and this is just like a little comic collection of like little like couple panel comics of a relationship between a vampire and a werewolf. This book is beautiful. Like, this is fabric bound. It's got sprayed edges. It's about vampires. This was my cup of tea exactly. I loved everything about it. This was a 5-star read for me. And lastly, for the month of October, I read Mooncakes by Wendy Zhu and Suzanne Walker. This has wonderful, like, spooky vibes, but like in a wholesome way. Also queer rep. There's non-binary rep. There's like deaf rep. One of the main characters has hearing aids that are a part of the story. This was great. I loved it. I recommend it to everybody. Please read this. If you don't want to read it now, at least like consider picking it up for next spooky season. This was also a 5-star read. So I think all in all, I had a pretty good reading month. I've also started and gotten through like the first quarter of His Hideous Heart, 13 of Edgar Allan Poe's most unsettling tales reimagined, including the original tales, edited by Dahlia Adler. So I haven't finished that yet, but I wanted to add it here and just to let you know to look forward to that for November, if I finish it. That is a short story collection of reimagined Edgar Allan Poe stories, and then the originals in the second half of the book. I've never read an Edgar Allan Poe story, so I'm sure this is lost on me. Maybe I'll get more familiar with his work eventually and then reread it and I'll like it more. But yeah, that was my reading month of October. I hope y'all enjoyed it, and I will see you whenever I do my next video. It will probably not be anytime soon, as this month is NaNoWriMo, and then it's Christmas and seasonal depression, and I'm just not good at consistently posting through the winter, so I'm sorry about that. But yeah, I'll see you whenever I do my next video. Hello, Zuko here. If you don't know, my name is Jess. I go by Zoomy on the Nana, blah, 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 blah. Okay, wait, I can't read. Shit. No, I can't count. Fuck. Okay, 1, 2, 3. So this book kind of starts out with a journalist. Don't! Hey! Stop it!